And next, I want to introduce our keynote speaker and then our keynote panel. So opening for us today is Greg OBrien. He's the CEO for JLL Americas, Chief Executive Officer. In this capacity, he has overall responsibility for the Americas business. He leads the Americas Executive Committee, which sets the strategic direction for JLL Americas. Greg is also a member of the firm's Global Executive Board, and he sits on the Diversity and Inclusion Council for the Americas. Greg?
Thank you, Darlene, and good morning, everyone. I'm going to need this. Well, thanks for everybody for getting up early today and coming in. I think it's going to be a great conference. I thought Stacy's comments were excellent, starting to vision some endpoints and ways we can actually get to solutions. But today I really want to talk about a couple of things and just give you a little bit of a context. JLL, obviously, we're very active with occupiers. Many of the largest corporations work with us on the occupier side, and then we also work a lot with the largest investors. So we sit a little bit with a perspective of both sides, and I'm very much looking forward to the panel where we have a number of owner representatives and then the largest tenant in the world in GSA, and we'll be able to dialogue around a number of different things. We're at a place right now in time, and I think this is true whenever you've lived, when the pace of change is increasing. But I really do think it's faster than it's been, certainly in our lifetimes, and that really forces us all to absorb a lot. And what we're talking about today, really a journey around buildings and around how they affect people, really is an accelerating place, and a place that's kind of fun to be in the middle of. I know for all of you, whether you're consultants or product providers, owners who are looking for how they can apply this and get to their ROI and other things, or you're an occupant and you're looking for how you can affect your overall business. So let's go back a couple of years and think about what this event was 6 years ago. Darlene and I were talking before. People got 12 pages stapled together, and it was really all about how do we get to energy efficiency. And that really has, the dialogue around that really has changed. I really think of that as foundational to what you all are doing and what our clients on both sides of the table are doing. It's really migrated, and I'm going to talk a little bit today about that journey. And then I'm going to spend a little time also talking about the future of work. And we take our largest occupant clients who ultimately drive the ROIs in a lot of the commercial buildings. They've come together, about 15 of them, on our client advisory board, and really helped us think about what pressures they really feel. And you'd think, well, we should know that. But really get away from talking about individual services and the things we all do, and start talking about the pressure areas to give us a context. And that's really what the future of work is. You have a copy of the plenary. We just brought this out really last week, but you have a copy of it in front of you. And I'll talk about it as a construct because maybe it helps us as we think about what this journey is. You know, today, and I'm gonna talk about it, it's not just energy. It's really about how do we get to building efficiency, and then more importantly, how do we get to the human experience and really the productivity of people, which buildings are really, at the end of the day, there to be a vehicle to accelerate that human experience for everybody's individual impact, and then how can we get more out of them for the businesses, not just as a business, as our investor clients are thinking about. So one way we think about it is a construct we call 330-300, and Kevin was saying before, it wasn't too long ago, we probably would have called it 110-100. And if you're in New York, they're much bigger numbers. But the context to that really is as follows: 3 in your average building, and there is no such thing, but 3 in your average building might be the energy cost. So one of the first things that this group came together around, and many of you thinking about, is how do I attack that energy cost? And then, of course, other utilities and things. The 30 is really how do I go after the rent side? And this is efficiency and how can I get more out of my space? And we've all seen the size of offices change, and I've been in the business for almost 30 years, and you look at the square footage per professional and how that's dropped over time. But now it's much more about how we're using space. Most of our corporate clients use each individual space less than 50% of the time, whether it's a conferencing facility or an individual desk, so that we're getting into lots of ways that we use space that really drive how do I get more value out of each square foot, which then will allow for our investor clients, if I can find a way to get there, then it'll allow them to actually pay more rent, because really what our clients are thinking about is what is the cost per employee, the cost per producer of what they have. And that's been a migration, and that's been a journey we've been on for a long time, and many of you have too. But the real prize here at the end of the day is how do I elevate my human capital? And 300 is a rough estimate on average of what the cost of human capital is per square foot in buildings. Darlene and I were talking before about a large financial services company who's in a primary market, and their cost per square foot on human capital is over $600 a foot. So when we are talking to the C-suite, what they want is really to start on the right side here. Take me to the 300, and let's have dialogues over how we can make them more productive. One of the interesting things about commercial real estate after the great financial crisis, almost all commercial real estate heads were reporting into the CFO. For obvious reasons, it's one of the highest costs. Today, the migration is almost complete, including in our company. The CRE function now reports in and partners much more tightly with HR, because the math of this really is, it's about how we help our people get more from themselves and out there for the company. So let's take a look at this evolution again. Again, we started with smart buildings, then we really moved to that smart workplace. So Darlene said she'd give me a bonus for every time I said the word smart today. So I'm trying to rack it up early. And then really to smart experience. And I'll give you a couple of examples. We were recently engaged by McDonald's, and they came in and said, I really want you to help us with a smart building strategy using our words. We started working on that and started dialoguing with them about what others are doing and benchmarking, and immediately it went to smart workplace. And as we're dialoguing about smart workplace, and they're asking the question that every client asks, what else are people doing? We immediately moved right up to smart experience and a discussion of the whole impact on what's going on. We're working with Genentech right now as one of many examples, and that entered through smart workplace. Really looking at how do we get efficient and effective. If I'm only using my individual workspaces 55% of the time, what techniques can I use, which is going to be around automation, and it's going to be around mobile applications that are going to allow me to use space, collaborate better. What things can I do? And with my goal really being, how do I bring my teams together to collaborate at a different level? We're early in that engagement with them, and immediately they're also looking across this spectrum. And then some of our largest clients, and one of the industries that's had to embrace a lot of this faster because of the cost pressures and regulation and other things is the banking industry. They also tend to be, the larger ones, very global. HSBC, large client of ours, and they really started at Smart Experience, because to them, the table stakes are really the earlier pieces, really getting to energy efficiency, staying at the edge of that. So they're very interested in all of your products and how we can incrementally get them there, because they're not starting at zero. But we also have many clients that are starting at zero and they come in, but it's amazing how agile they are at moving across these different perspectives. So why would we really want to optimize all this? If you're a CEO, CFO, COO in a big company, and those are the folks that I spend a lot of time talking with, they want to know, how's it going to impact my bottom line? So we'll talk a lot about ROI and other things later, but how's it going to impact my bottom line? The reality is the best places to work, so companies that are rated great places to work, they outperform in the stock market the other companies by 3x. So these are very real metrics. So as you see companies being named, I'm very proud that in the cities that we're in, almost universally, we're named the best place to work. What that means is our attrition is lower, And it means that we're able to bring teams together because they have a little more time. We have a diversity of perspectives. We want to be a fantastic place to work because that's the best way for us to drive outsized value for clients. Clients continue to come back, your client turnover rate is lower, and then you deliver really good performance, which at the end of the day to the C-suite is a very important part of what their board needs them to do, in addition to sustainability and the other issues. So let me talk just for a second about future work. We broke this down at various times as we were going through the many ways we could talk about the pressures we see today and trying not to use very specific things like our facilities management business or our project development services business. We came up with probably 20. It's been a lot of different iterations, but the latest iteration, again, this is heavily informed and shaped by our top 15 or 20, many of them global clients. The financial performance and operational excellence piece you see in red at the bottom, that used to be what a lot of our businesses were about. That's absolutely table stakes for our clients. Whether it's there aren't many first-generation outsourcers at this point in the corporate world, but the expectation is you're going to be excellent at those, and you need to be, and they want to see us continuing to move down that spectrum. But the three areas, and I'll talk about them briefly now, that they really want to talk about more is the human experience. How can I help that 300 get a lot better? The digital drive. The real move, this is everything from IoT to automation of other areas to artificial intelligence. How can I integrate that all? And then the last one, continuous innovation. I need to be looking at some of these things that are out there, the virtual realities and other things like that. I need to be starting to think about how I can integrate them today as examples, and then tomorrow they're going to be a big part of how we actually operate at the end of the day. So why did we come up with these five and why this construct? The answer is when we bring this to CEOs and CFOs, certainly to our CRE community, they say, this is what I'm hearing from our board and from our senior executives. These are the ways, broad buckets, that people are talking to me. I need you to come to me in this way. And at the end of the day, once you shape what their strategies are and you can help them get there, it eventually turns into the types of services and goods that those in this room and others have. But don't come to me with individual services or your integrated solutions. Talk to me about my problems, and these are my problems. And none of these should be a surprise, I'm sure, to anybody in the room. So the human experience is really about how we help people collaborate better. Joe Allen's going to talk more about the environmental effects on people and their ability to think better, how we're able to work with them, with our teams, to be able to find them different ways they work. In reality, my dad was with the same company for 37 years, had the same office, everybody had an office. We don't operate that way anymore. And I can tell you the next generation definitely doesn't. We move between different spaces, sometimes quiet spaces, collaboration spaces, and then we need to think about things like natural light and other resources, and the outcomes of that, and Joe will talk about that in science a little bit more, really get us to attacking that 300 in some way. And it can sound abstract, but the reality is when you do it right, it really does have an impact, and it needs to be driven by the occupiers. For our building owners, we really need to be receptive and flexible in what we have, and I know that's what a lot of you in this room today are helping with. Digital drive, there are 1.3 billion devices connected today. By 2020, it's 20 billion. So basically, any data, to the extent that you as a company want to gather it, there are ways to do it. And once you have that data, then the real question is, and we have a number of clients who wanted to have lots of sensors and gather all the data. Now they're getting to the point where they're having to go to the next level, hire the data scientists and others to provide insight from that data. Because the data actually will do absolutely nothing for you. But what will do something is, here's the information, here are the tools. Now you can make faster, smarter business decisions. Continuous innovation. I sit on our digital board as well. It's amazing how many things are going on in prop tech, how many great products companies like the ones in this room are coming up with, and we're trying to digest them all the time. How do we absorb those into the strategies that we have so they can actually have impact for clients? and you need to be thinking about what that, and you're thinking about how to get in. We're helping companies think about how do we look at those and then get to real examples, and I'm sure we'll talk about some of those on the panel later. The future of all of these things really is today. We have clients that really run across a spectrum from I'm just trying to get into the entry level of I really haven't managed my energy, I'm starting to think about workplace, to what's on the bleeding edge, how are we going to be able to do more that's going to make us more productive, lower the attrition of our people, make for a better life for our people, and continue to let us perform, whether it's in the stock market, socially as a socially responsible company. And it's a really fun place to be as we sit at the center. I'm very much looking forward to our panel and to dialoguing with the others. I'm going to turn it back to Darlene now, and she'll get us kicked off.